Alright, 42 RLE normal rebuild parts I put in is LS kit, filter, cooler bypass valve. It's only a couple bucks, and this will come back and bite you really hard if it screws up. Pump bushing, the two bushings that go in this drum here. Normally put a pump body and gears in it. And the pumps, the early styles have a gear rotor pump instead of the normal looking gears like this, and this crest here is really small. And it likes to wear real bad right in here. So I always swap them out with the earlier 604 style pump. And then this valve that goes in the valve body, Sonax makes it. I'll show you how to put that in a little bit. And to get this bushing out the back here, I take a C6 band strut bolt, 2 band nuts, and back it up on there. And you want to tighten the nuts up back to back on there. And then it's 3/4. Just run the and suck that bushing right out. Now it came out really easy because I had already done it, and I forgot I should have filmed this to show you. I'll show you the other bushing in a minute. Alright, where this bushing goes in, right there on this ledge. It's usually got a little burr. If you go and just shove that bushing in there, it's going to be too tight. So I just take a little die grinder and I buff that little edge off. And I get a bushing driver that fits right inside this hole. Mine's a number 41. And then when I push that down flush, and then I take a number 38, it fits down inside the bushing, and I push it down just below flush. Take your stator and make sure it fits on there. Spins nice and free. On this little bushing here that you pull out of the back, if it's a Beveled style material like this instead of the bronze, odds are that little tool won't pull these out. It will already be too big. That's how bad they wear out. So you just have to use a bushing cutter on it. Chain? No. Why?
That one has like a little break, like a 4x4 style, 470. What is it? The Chinese have never seen flying on that damn thing. I have a hard time saying the jack.
back of the drum here, there's a filter. Make sure it's in there. Use lots of lube. Should never say you use too much lube. Now, I don't think it makes a big difference, but there's a feed hole in here. And there's a feed hole right there. I just line them up. They don't say anything about it anywhere. As a general rule, on their snap rings, there's a taper to the tips. The taper always goes up, with an exception. The snap ring that goes in here has a bevel to it, so the bevel goes up, no matter what it is out here. Snap-on redid these snap ring pliers. It really made it a pain to put this snap ring back in. They just don't fit in there right anymore. Tips are too long. Won't let the snap ring go down far enough. Alright, make sure the snap ring's fully seated. There's a screen with an orifice in here. A lot of times that screen will come off. I haven't noticed a difference. Make sure that's not plugged up. That screen's there to help keep that little hole from getting debris in it. There again, it doesn't seem to make a difference, but there's a notch in this piston. I just lined it up with that notch, but it don't say anything about it anywhere, so probably don't matter. Now this one does not have a bevel, so we're going to make the taper go up. See how there's little notches and a piston right there? You'll never want the opening of your snap rings to be halfway on, halfway off. Try to get it in between. Later models, the bearing that goes here, scoot this over, used to be like that, pretty much flat. Now it's got this little lip on it. It kind of pops into the place right here. Yeah, depending on whose kit you get and what they feel like sending you, that's what kind of clutches you're going to get. If I get two different colored clutches that go in this drum. I use these two for reverse, these four for underdrive, these four for overdrive. Sorry. These 2 for reverse, these 4 for underdrive, these 4 for overdrive. And again, I don't think it makes a difference. Clutches and steels are all the same thickness, so you should come out pretty close to what you was originally. So I just play it by eye. This unit does not take kindly you putting the wrong snap rings in the wrong place, so if you can't keep up with what goes where, I suggest you lay it out piece by piece. There's a flat snap ring that goes in the bottom groove. And then this plate, you see the step side goes up. There's a beveled snap ring, the bevel goes up. This is usually about 70 thousandths right here. Sometimes it's real hard to see the difference in it. Other bushing that I usually keep a bunch of is the bushing that goes in here. This is a 2-piece from the factory. I put a 1-piece in. Depending on which one you have, there's 2 different ones. The difference is the diameter and where this hole is at. The early ones, hole's in the center and it's thicker. Later ones, the hole's offset. I don't know if you can see that, it's just a little offset. Offset, the short end goes down. And you're going to have to line that up with that hole right there. Of course, they usually pop right out. Since we're on camera, it ain't gonna do it. I just eyeball it. And use this bushing driver to drive it. Just watch until the bushing is lined up with the hole. Usually it's all the way bottomed out, but sometimes it's not. Like this time it's should have stopped a little bit sooner. you ever get the hole where it's not lined up, just take a drill bit and open it up to where it's fully open. Got this, you see the wave in it. The wavy snap ring goes in the bottom of the groove. This pressure plate goes with the step down. And this flat snap ring goes on top. Gotta put a little, dadgummit. Forgot my washers. Not paying attention. It's 5-tab washer. 3-tab metal washer. Washer goes on top. Pressure plate goes with the dish up. Flat snap ring. Pry the pressure plate back up against the snap ring. And then there's the bearing goes in here between these two. Probably fell out in the bucket, drain bucket over there. Alright, here's that bearing that goes between the pump and the drum. See, it's just slightly different. It goes in like that on top of the drum. This planet takes this spacer right here on the back. Big bearing goes here. This bearing goes on the sun gear. Four-tab washer is going to go on the front of this shell. You get a new one of these in the kit. Just make sure it's the same. If it has a bleed hole in it, Make sure the old one did. If there's a bleed hole in this, there's not one in this piston. The wide flat snap ring goes on top of the center support. The thick clutches, and there's only 4 of them, go underneath the center support. The low reverses, there's 5 of them, and they're thinner. So you can put your low reverses in this flat, thin snap ring, in your pressure plate with the step down towards that. Then this tapered snap ring, taper goes up. Then your 2 4 clutches, then your center support. There's a new, it should be, here it is, this new clip that goes on the back of your planetary. It usually always breaks trying to get it out. Some kits give you 2 gaskets that go underneath this piston. They have a large hole and there'll be a small hole. Just pick the one that gives you the most opening in this area right here. They give you new bolts in the kit. They're 25 Torx. Don't use an impact on them. You don't want to strip this out. If you strip these bolts out, it's not going to seal well underneath there, and you're going to get a delay on reverse. You don't want to distort the plate either. Just get it down snug and just give it a little tweak. This tab goes up in this slot right here. And here again, put the taper up and put this opening in between 2 of these fingers. I use a 700 forward planet ring gear, and I put it on my foot press. And put this down across the center to push down on it. Put a little lube on the bearing races for the planet, both sides. You got the bearing that goes on the back here. Just get a little start on it, and then I just give it a little tap till I get down enough to get the nut on it. It's a 2-inch nut. Tighten it down tight. There's 2 places to stake the nut. I will stake that later. Got the bearing on. Bearing on. Five low reverse. Flat snap ring, bottom groove. Now the book says that you're supposed to put that opening up here at the 1 o'clock position. I've always put them down there. It hasn't seemed to make a difference. This opening, this one goes up here, and this tapered snap ring, taper up. Make sure it's fully seated. Sun shell, 4 tab washer. Two 4 clutches. On the center support, I line 1 hole up with this tab right here so that I can put my finger on there and guide it in. You want that. It's got to sit on there just like that. Flat snap ring. Use started in there, just work it around. I'll tell you what, I got a double whammy today. Not only did I not feel good, I got the camera on and everything is just fighting me. Make sure it's fully seated. When you drop this drum in there, you'll know it's all the way down because this reluctor will be right in the center of the hole for the speed sensor. Cooler bypass valve in there, hole right there. Gasket goes like that. Cutouts go over here. Accumulators. Most 42 RLEs are all the same as far as the springs go. Some of your Chryslers use different spring setups, so make sure you put them back where they came out of. The snap ring's bad about breaking. Some of your kits will have it in there. Park mechanism, the spring, a lot of times will pop off. Goes around that. They had it up underneath. It can go either way. This goes around this part right here. This hooks around the back here. The pin will go up underneath. The spring will sit on top like that. Should have not taken it off. Don't take it off if it don't come off. It can be a pain in the butt. Big pin will go on the bottom. Little other pin goes on top. There's a cut plug that goes in there and holds it in place. Tap it into the bottom valve. This one has a bracket that goes on the valve body that pops into that hole and keeps that cut plug from coming out. If your tranny does not have this, stake that cut plug in place. I normally do my valve bodies over there. We'll see how this works out. You got the thermal valve that goes in here. You got the filter that goes in the separator plate. Now they give you new ones. The old ones that they used to give you were just like this, but now these new ones are cone shaped, and I don't like the way they fit in there. So if the old one's good, I just use it. You can probably throw it away. Probably won't make a difference. Just put it in there to where it turns nice and free. When you got the plate where it's supposed to be, like that. Got this plate here. Takes 2 long bolts. The short bolt goes in here. The short bolt goes in there. Get your bolt holes where they're pretty much lined up. Now on this part, you gotta be really careful. I found out about doing this. I used to just throw them in there with no problems, but I've been running into some problems. You got 3 of these valves that go in here. Make sure they're all 3 the same. I've run into situations where the center one's a different, it's usually a different color, and it's a different length. Alright, those are both, all 340 thousandths. So together, 2 of them are 680. You also got to be careful what you're getting in the kit. I ran into this the other day. You see how that looks right there. Look at this one. See the difference? Right there, there's a little step. Same number kit, 701 thousandths. 714 thousandths. So I don't know if I would put that in there or not. Let's see where it comes out in the hole. Put the black in first, then the silver, then one of the old valves. Your clip goes in. That might be okay. Let's see where the old one showed up at. I threw that in there, and I had what was it doing? It was doing something really goofy. Something with the engagements. I think it was a really bad delay in drive, if I remember correctly. I may be wrong, may be in reverse. It looks like it's probably going to be okay, so I'm going to throw it in there. Just be aware that there are differences. Don't just go throwing it in there. Also be careful when you're blowing your valve body out, so you don't blow this clip out. Later models, this one's got 4 check balls. Later models leave that ball out and they take the thermal valve out. They also add 2 solenoids to it. A transducer and a line pressure solenoid. That's where the bracket goes that holds that cut plug in. Gotta have the valve body in manual low to get it off and on.